watching UNO with Dr. Ambrish Saxena.
Hello students, today is Wednesday 13th of November 2019. The Supreme Court gave its verdict with regard to the Ram Janambhoomi Babri Masjid land dispute in Ayodhya on Saturday. And since that time, there has been a debate on the judgment and there has been interpretation and the counter interpretation of the judgment. Obviously, the judgment runs into close to 1000 pages, so it takes time for anybody to read the whole judgment and then to make out what are the fine points of the judgment. Now, in this program, we will try to unfold which is the best part of this judgment. To me, the best part of the judgment is where the Supreme Court has shut doors for fresh litigations in respect of any place of worship where there have been discord on the issue of worship. But then how Supreme Court did it? Supreme Court in fact re-emphasized on an act which is known as Places of Worship Special Provisions Act. This act was passed by Narasimha Rao government in its first year in the year 1991. And what this act states, there are basically three important provisions of this act. One, that no conversion of a religious place is possible. This means if there is a church or mosque or temple, it cannot be converted into a place of worship of another religion. The second important point of the act states that the preservation of the religious character of a place of public worship has to be maintained at the date of 15th August 1947 when India got independence. This means no alteration is possible after independence of a place of worship. And the third most significant point of the act is that no litigation or the dispute can be taken to the court with regard to any controversy on a place of worship after the act has been passed. This act was passed by the Congress government in 1991. Since that time, Ram Janambhoomi movement was at its peak and there was a lot of communal frenzy in the country. So, this act was brought in parliament, but then the Ram Janambhoomi Babri Masjid dispute was not covered under this act for the reason that the litigation was already there in the court. The Supreme Court in its judgment has not only made the government legally bound to protect any place of worship in the light of this act passed in 1991 by Parliament, but the Supreme Court has also bestowed the constitutional responsibility on the government to protect secularism, because secularism is part of the basic structure of the constitution, and this has been re-emphasized in S.R. Bommai versus Union of India case in 1994, where the Supreme Court in a 9-judge bench has said that secularism is part of the basic structure of the constitution. And what is the basic structure of the constitution? This was also clarified by the Supreme Court in 1973 in Keshavanand Bharti versus State of Kerala case, wherein the Supreme Court with 7-6 majority has said this, that the basic structure of the constitution is very sacrosanct and Parliament cannot change it or alter it even through a constitutional amendment. So, let us hope that in the light of this constitutional and legal position, there will be no more legal disputes in India as far as the places of worship is concerned. Now, moving to another story, whatever happened in Maharashtra for the last about 20 days, since the time the assembly elections happened in that state and the results were announced. For almost 15 days, the governor was waiting for the political parties to come forward and stake claims for forming the government, but Nobody turned up. Then the governor called BJP being the single largest party with 105 members in a house of 290 members. But BJP declined the offer. Then the governor invited the second largest party, that is Shiv Sena, which is having 56 members. When the Shiv Sena could not muster support, the governor invited NCP, which has 54 members. But then NCP could not also muster the support, and it requested the governor to give more time, which governor did not provide, and finally the president rule was imposed in Maharashtra. No political party is duty bound to form a government. So there is no legal binding. If every party says that we cannot form the government, then the law cannot compel a political party. But then a political party is under obligation to form the government, even if it is not a mandate legally. But then if it is not happening, then obviously the president rule and then the fresh elections might take place if eventually no political party in the time to come is able to form the government. There is no cap on the number of political parties in India. This means a number of parties can be set up, and law does not forbids anybody to form a political party. The law says, and if we refer to Representation of People's Act 1951, then any political party has to get itself registered with the Election Commission, and there is a pro forma which has to be filled up by the political party. The political party has to submit its constitution also with the Election Commission, and also what is the membership structure and how the elections, the inter-party elections will be happening, and Election Commission will see to this, then elections are happening. But then what can be done with the political parties which are either not holding the elections as per their constitution, or even if the elections are happening, they are simply an eyewash, and always the people of the same family are being elected. And in the Maharashtra case, we can cite the example of Shiv Sena. Another factor, whether there is an ideological base of a political party. In India, even that is not legally mandated. Any political party can follow a particular ideology or can decide not to follow any particular ideology. Another point is what is the status of the pre-poll and the post-poll alliances. Obviously, pre-poll alliances have no legal status. Post-poll alliances can have that status if the governor, or in the case of the center, the president acknowledges it. As like the Shiv Sena is trying to form the government, and NCP and Congress might be supporting it. So an alliance is being formed, which is an example of post-poll alliance, and if the governor accepts it, then the government can be formed. This means that the political system in India has to grow further, and the political parties have to shoulder their responsibilities as mandated by the people, even if there are no specific provisions in the constitution and law, so that our democracy can function well. That is all in today's edition.